Good evening, folks. Welcome back. This is your half-hour call. Half hour, please. Half hour.
Good evening, folks. Hey, it's Curt Columbus. I'm the artistic director here at Trinity Repertory Company, and I have a wonderful group of guests this evening, Jordan Butterfield, Michelle Cruz, and Daniel Duque-Estrada. Before we begin with our wonderful guests, however, I'm going to play you just one of my favorite clips of all time from our production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Peter, can we roll this clip? You're going to see why I love it so much. I've been meaning to tell you, I got this feeling at once inside. I look at you and fantasize. I'm tonight. Now I've got you in my sights. With these hungry eyes. One look at you and I can't disguise. I've got hungry eyes. I feel magic between you and I. I wanna hold you so hear me out. I wanna show you what love's all about. Darling, tonight. Now I've got you in my sights. With these hungry eyes. One look at you and I can't disguise. I keep on hungry eyes. Now can I take you by surprise? I need you to see this love was meant to be. Okay, so how could that not be my favorite clip?
I don't know.
And for those who are watching at home, that was not Kenny G or a recording of Kenny G. That was our very own Mauro Hantman on the sax, killing it. It's amazing. Hi, everyone. I'm just so glad that you're here tonight with us to talk about company, community, and education. And my guests this evening are Jordan Butterfield, our Director of Education. Jordan actually joined Trinity Repertory Company in 2007 as an intern, right? You were part of our intern program, Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And you just couldn't leave. And so you've been...
I've been trapped for 13 years.
Yeah, you've been our education... That's right. You've been our education director since 2015, and the department has just flourished. You'll hear more about that later under Jordan. Next, I have Michelle Cruz, who has been our Director of Community Engagement since 2019. But Michelle, you were a Project Discovery student.
I was. Project Discovery was the first introduction to theater, and it was at Trinity Rep, so pretty amazing to be back.
I mean, it's incredible. Where were you at high school that you came to see a show at Trinity?
Shea High School.
See, there you go. Amazing. And do you remember the show?
Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And then we came back. I'm trying to remember the other one, but the first was Christmas Carol, and it was amazing.
Amazing. And we will return to all of that and talk to Michelle in a minute about A Christmas Carol and community engagement programs. But then last but certainly not least, so beautiful in his Emilio Estevez wig, singing Hungry Eyes.
Dancing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Is Danny Duque-Estrada. Danny's actually the newest member of our acting company. He joined in 2018. But you have been a student at Trinity Rep since 2010, is that right?
It'll be 1 year, it'll be 10 years this August that
Amazing.
I first came to Trinity.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
Danny, I'm actually going to start with you and talk about company. And so you came here 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the component of company was visible to you then. What about that seemed different from other acting jobs that you had seen other places?
Well, it's funny having to answer that question now after, graduated Trinity in 2013. And I've just been, like, my career has been really rare. I've only been a part of companies. Dallas Theater Center, then the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for 2 seasons, and then here. With every once in a while going off and doing something like that. But I always knew, I just never, I know we all kind of sign up for the life of the kind of the traveling circus life.
Right. Right.
I don't know. I guess call it my family, call it my background. I just kind of, I always said, I want to do what I want to do, but I want to do it like my mom does her job, which is just your job. You show up, you do what you do every day, you go home, and that's that. And you do what you do with whoever's there or not there or whatever. But I wanted to do it with a group that I could count on. Acting can be real. Like everybody here, I'm sure knows this in some capacity, but acting can get, that's why the meet and greets, that's why all those things at the very beginning is because that ice breaking takes a long time, or it can. And with company, there's to some degree, there's that, but not like it is if you have to meet everybody over and over again. And the energy in a room where nobody knows each other is very different. It's almost too much sometimes. Yeah. And I just knew I wanted to be a part of a continuum.
I love that, Danny. It is really, the thing that for me makes company so special is that I work repeatedly with people and I get to see them in a range of roles, and I get to challenge them to do things that maybe they quote unquote aren't right for. You hear that all the time.
Whoa.
Right.
And just to cut in, like, that's another thing that a company can offer you is there is an element of anonymity to what we do. The less you know, it's kind of like why I kind of lament the fact that we know so much about the actors that do a lot of the work that we see nowadays, is because now you just do know too much about the person, and that kind of goes counter to the whole enterprise. But there is something about anonymity in walking into a group and them not knowing anything about you, but that's not ultimately who you're performing for.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it just feels nice to be known by them, to be unknown by everybody watching. Makes it feel safer.
Yeah, but don't you feel? Do you know audience members at this point? Are there people that that have repeatedly come up to you and gone, "I really liked your performance in X"?
Sure, but I'm kind of one of those people. Like, I'll show. They're my people. They're my community. If they come to see the show, I want to do what I can. But sometimes I do duck out of something like, say, an opening night, because I actually enjoy the illusion.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I'll show up at functions and I'll say hi to people and stuff like that. But I actually enjoy pulling the rug out from under them. And I flatter myself. It's just kind of, it's like, and you can call it being lazy, because it makes my job harder to do sometimes, but I love it that way. I
love that. It's no accident that you studied under Brian McElhaney, the king of the opening night dodge, right?
Totally. Brian totally gets this.
But so you talk a little bit about, you went through the MFA training program, and so you studied with the actors that you then also worked with. What's that like?
Study with, you mean in terms of the Trinity Rep acting company?
Yeah, and the training with the company and then working with the company both.
Well, it's kind of how, wow, that's a big one. I think in my time, I think they do a lot more, if I'm not mistaken. I think that the students now do a lot more with the company than in my years. I mean, we did some stuff. I remember particularly in the third year, poor Stephen Thorne had to direct my class in All's Well That Ends Well. And it was
such a good production. It was so good.
Oh, but we made him pay for it. It's like, I feel like we made him pay. But, but we had a great time doing it. And that was kind of the most direct interaction I had with a company member, I want to say, in my time there. And with every once in a while, like I would talk to Joe Wilson or I would ask for their advice, or it was more kind of reaching out because you have that great resources of these actors who've been in this place for so long. And and the history of Trinity Rep is like, the people that have come through this place is the traditions, the different kinds of traditions of acting that have come through here. Everybody from Richard Jenkins to, you guys have all those pictures and all these stories that I constantly hear about, like, some actors who were never on TV from those days in theaters where every actor was a journeyman and you just went from place to place, but these people found a home. And what was that like? And da, 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 da. And then now working with all those people, it kind of makes it easier in the sense that we have a rapport already. And I got here and they remembered me, of course, and all this stuff, but it still went through a period of transition when I was just going like, because I got here, I'm a late bloomer. I got here at 30 years old, but even still, and I was one of the oldest people in the MFA program, but even still, I looked at all those company members and I just thought they were gods. Like, it was like,
I love that.
You know what I mean? So it's funny. It's only recently that I've gone like, oh my God, I've made it to Mount Olympus. And it's only kind of recently that I've gone like, oh, this chair's kind of comfy. All right.
Yeah. I'm going to actually take this moment because this is a great time to talk about this idea of working with sort of the company members of great duration. You worked with Annie Scaria and Tim Crow in this production that we're going to show a clip of, Native Gardens. But you also worked with Maria Gonzalez, who's like this amazing young actor, graduated from our MFA program, someone that we want to have a relationship with in the future because she's so incredible.
Yep.
Peter, let's roll this clip from Native Gardens. There's Annie and Timmy.
Tanya, I think I've done something I might regret.
Really? What?
I invited the entire firm over to our house.
You did what?
The senior partners were all joking about me being the new guy, and then Mr. Krause, as in Smith, Krause, and Wilson, said he barely thinks you exist.
But you told him I'm finishing my dissertation and the baby, right?
Before I knew it, I channeled my father and invited all of them over to the house.
You didn't.
No, it gets better. The party's this weekend.
No,
Breathe. Hey, remember the Lamage.
Maldita sea, are you crazy? How did that happen?
I'll tell you how. The letterhead partner, Mr. Krause, said, Pablo, that's a very generous offer. When would you like to have us all over? And I said, sir, mi casa, su casa. And we all laughed. And then he said, I'd love to see where you live. I'll tell you what, I'm free this Saturday.
Saturday?
Does that work for you? I mean, it was a test. A total test. He was watching me with this gleam in his eye.
This is where you say, no, it doesn't work for me or my beloved pregnant wife.
I didn't skip a beat. I looked him right in the eye and I said, yes, Mr. Krause, Saturday is perfect. And he said, I like that. You have cojones, son.
Mr. Krause actually said cojones.
He even did the quotation marks.
Oh, God.
No, but I see it as his own personal form of cultural outreach, which could be a good sign to becoming partners.
No, nothing about this ballsy machista law firm party planning is good.
I know, but Tanya, this could be bigger than Stephen Johnson's Martini Happy Hour because the only living letterhead boss said he would come. I mean, I could become the first Latino to make partner in this place. I mean, maybe one day they'll even add Del Valle to the letterhead. I mean, that'll be a first, huh?
That is so beautiful. I love Maria so much.
Yeah.
But again, Danny, that was your first show as a company member. it's sort of, you were the bridge between like Timmy and Annie and their experience, and Maria, who's having her first time on stage with the company. What was that like?
I mean, it's quite simply, it wasn't even a thing. Like Maria was actually, I have to admit, Maria was more professional than me. I mean, it was because I had one of my best, it's true. It's true. I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, I had one of my best friends directing me. So it was really easy. Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on her because I might weep openly. She's a sister. She's a family member. But you know, like we were company members at Dallas Theater Center together, all this stuff. We have a friendship, and then it was so easy to just kind of whatever. But then, and Maria was the one keeping us on track more often than not. And I never once, I actually, it's funny now that I think about it, I didn't once think about the fact that she was a student. I mean, I guess because she was so entrenched in there and I knew that she was a student for so long before I worked with her, it just kind of left my mind, but then she didn't remind me of anything at all when we were there. She's, I mean, like that's the best case scenario.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and this is actually a really good segue to what we're going to talk about with community. The thing that you're underlining, and the thing that's important, is this notion of connection and a family, right? And part of what I love with having a resident company is that they are able to interact with each other as family, and then they're able to interact sort of with the larger community in a way that you can't get other places. So Peter, let's roll this next clip, which is, well, you'll see.
The one, the only Ebenezer Scrooge. This thing on? Does it work? I was in a foul mood when they told me that I needed to stop counting my money and come all the way down here to say what? Merry Christmas to you people. But when one gets down here to the center of our kaleidoscopic creative capital and is greeted by these angelic voices and this beautiful community of people, how could we not be filled with joy? We are so fortunate to be members of Providence, Rhode Island. I am so glad to be here with all of you. I am so happy to be a beneficiary of the blessing that are these voices and are all of us here together. Thank you so much for coming out. From all of us at Trinity Rep, Merry Christmas to you, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, yes?
And that was, of course, the beautiful and talented Jude Sandy, who was that year playing Ebenezer Scrooge. That project, the Community Sing, was the brainchild of the beautiful and talented Michelle Cruz. Michelle, where did that Community Sing come from for you?
I'm a singer and it brings so much joy to me, and I wanted to bring it to others. And it started, I'm the curator for the Burnside series in downtown Providence at Kennedy Plaza. And I was just watching the magic of that series, and I wanted to bring it to us in the winter. I said, why can't we have that? Why can't we do something like that in the winter? And keep that momentum going, because it was such a beautiful thing to see so many different people quite literally at our hub downtown. And, you know, make it a community, make it a neighborhood. Downtown Providence is a neighborhood. So I recall, I believe it was about 95 degrees that day, and I contacted Jude in August and I said, hey, I have a great idea. Do you want to do this with me? We can, you know, carol down the street. Let's meet the mayor. Let's light the tree. He loved it. So that's where it stemmed from. It was such a beautiful event.
Oh my gosh, it was such a great success. How many people joined you at Trinity Rep and then caroled their way down to Kennedy Plaza?
Roughly 70 that, you know, crowded about the lobby, and then we headed out, and more people. Jude and I were up front leading the carol, and what was so beautiful was watching other people coming through the side streets and joining us and walking down to City Hall and Kennedy Plaza. It was amazing.
It was amazing. Like out of a movie, Michelle. I was one of those 70 people, and I remember before it was happening, I was like, oh no, more Christmas songs, because at Trinity, Christmas starts in early October for all of us, and we start hearing, and actually September.
Yeah,
like for we have auditions for the Christmas Carol children in September, and so I usually start hearing Jingle Bells 400 times in September, and but it completely got me in the Christmas spirit this year, and it was just such a wonderful, powerful event to be a part of. So I loved it. Thank you, Michelle, for bringing that up.
And that's actually the thing that I love. Again, this is about the connections, and part of the reason that I wanted to do this show tonight was to make visible the connections that we make as company, community, and education. And Michelle, you've been remarkable from your very first day. You've been thinking about how we make connections to our programming. I mean, how do you think about community? What are you thinking now?
I think about, the same people who were part of that community sing that, might be at the bus stop at Kennedy Plaza, and then they're walking down the street to Washington Street and wondering, entering our theater, what is that like? What can they see? And especially now, because we are in our silos right now, it's so important to have some form of community again. How can we still have that connection? There's so many different ways to be able to connect. It can be one-on-one, it can be within a group, but thinking about how do we just look at each other eye to eye, even if it is through this box or a phone call, finding a way, meeting people where they are, asking them, what do you need right now?
Michelle and I were on a call early. Sorry, go ahead, please.
I was just thinking about fairly at the beginning of the pandemic, I was checking in with our community partners and, just seeing how everyone was. And we had a wonderful community partner, 134 Collaborative in the Mathewson Street Church, and just asking them, what do you need right now? And they were feeding the homeless in a very desolate downtown at the time. And they said, you know what, we need masks. And our wonderful costume director, Amanda Downing-Carney, she said, absolutely, I'll make them. How many do they need? And it was just wonderful to be able to deliver that to them and know that they could be safe, because we saw that need where, they needed to be protected. And I'm so glad we were able to, continue to forge that relationship and meet their need.
This is part of what I think is invisible about what we do to so many people, is the notion that we do have all of these community partners. And Peter, can we roll that series of slides? Michelle, will you talk us through the community programs that we offer?
Sure. So this is our talk back, which is really, really great. So we have them usually after the last show. And it was so wonderful to see so many different pieces of our community and relationships that we've had throughout years now. And we also had our Sunday dinner, which was really great. I kind of just think of things and say, hey, let's try it. And that was really beautiful. It was a way to connect, through food. It's our equalizer. And just have discussion in our scene shop, which was a lot of fun. And closing night and Context and Conversation is a really great program where we essentially tour through different organizations in the state and have different conversations along with our wonderful conversationalists and residents from the public library, Christina Bevilacqua. And the photo that you're seeing now is Sophia Academy. And we had amazing students who were panelists. And here, which was really great, it was our first one of the season for the Prince of Providence. It was a full house. We asked City Hall if we could be in their alderman's chambers, and they said okay. And it was so interesting to see, you know, Mike Stanton and other amazing journalists just talking about what it was like to not only cover Buddy, but what it's like to be in our new world. What would have been like if all of that happened now? So, you know, we try to have lots of different relationships. It's all about fostering creativity, fostering connection. You never know what's needed. You never know what's needed.
Michelle,
ask.
Sorry, go ahead.
And you just ask. It's just making that connection now.
That's right. On day one, you said we need a context and conversation for Prince of Providence. And you started talking about wanting to talk to the journalists who covered Buddy. And I remember thinking, I wouldn't have had that idea, right? To create that context for this play, because you're in Rhode Island, everybody knows Buddy, but you complicated a story that, quote unquote, we all knew, which I think is part of the work that you're doing. I also want to go back to this notion of the Sunday dinner, because that was something you piloted this year, and we sort of breezed through it on the slide. And talk just a moment about that, please.
Yeah, you know, it was I was thinking of something different to do for closing night of Radio Golf. And with our African American tradition of Sunday dinner, it's so important, and it's something that we're losing, unfortunately. And I wanted to bring that back in some way, and weave those themes of the play along with being able to discuss it over dinner. And it was amazing. We were able to get some local Black female-owned food. She was amazing. Her and her son were the caterers, and just being able to sit down and talk through those themes that, you know, Radio Golf was set in 1997. But, you know, all of that is relevant now. And we were talking about the parallels of the Hill District and Providence and gentrification, you know, just powerful stuff. And knowing that art carries on, and, you know, how does it weave into our current story? It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And the food was amazing.
I mean, this is the thing. So, and we have lots of great community partners. One of our partners is Rhode Island Latino Arts, right?
Yeah. So Rhode Island Latino Arts, the executive director is Marta Martinez, and we've had a long-standing relationship with her. And it's just been wonderful. And what you're seeing now is Teatro en Verano. This is last year's Santa Boya Bouquet production at Waterfire, which is very, very cool. I love Teatro en Verano because once again, you get to tour around different cities and bring this wonderful bilingual mobile unit to, you know, Central Falls, Pawtucket, places that, you know, don't always get that access. And I'm from that community, and it's just wonderful to see that. And it was really beautiful. I remember once during my first weeks, just, you know, seeing a family, an intergenerational family, and, you know, working through the English and Spanish, and just talking it through and enjoying it as a family. That's so special about Teatro en Verano, and I'm so glad we continue to do it.
Yeah, and then the last thing, and I said this to these guys when we were rehearsing this afternoon. We have about 12 hours of material, so we're kind of rushing through. I promise I'll get to questions, y'all. I promise. Michelle, talk just briefly about America 2. Which is a program that we have. We may skip this clip, Peter, just because I want to talk about the program instead, if you would, Michelle.
Yeah, so America 2, now we celebrated our 5th anniversary last year, and it's really talking about what's at the cusp of the community, what's on our minds. And it started with everything that happened in Ferguson and the 28-hour project. And, you know, we've had different themes like DACA, the unfortunate high cost of Providence housing. Last year, we talked about health, and it's so wonderful that we are able to take the stories of the community. They are bringing their stories, their experiences, and we work with community actors to really bring out that story. And it's a wonderful thing that we're able to put that on the Trinity Rep stage. And it's also wonderful to see those people who told their stories, who might have been afraid to be on stage, to see their story on stage. That's also a powerful thing, amplifying that voice. And something I've been doing for this year, we've just been collecting stories through our pandemic. I've been interviewing tons of people the last couple of months. It could be a nurse, a doctor. I interviewed Frog and Toad, the person who made the Knock It Off t-shirts, Asher, and just talking about where are we now? What does it feel like to be in this space right now with everything that is going on?
Michelle, if someone has a story they want to tell to you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yes, they could email stories@trinityrep.com.
Excellent. Michelle, thank you. And again, I could talk about this all night. I'm reminding folks that we do take questions. And so if you want to leave questions in the comments, we'll get to them in just a moment. But I want to talk about education. Jordan Butterfield, you and I could spend a whole evening together just talking about the education offerings at Trinity Rep, couldn't we?
We sure could, Curt.
Yeah.
It is amazing, especially under Curt's leadership, to how much we've expanded. It used to be Project Discovery, which is our oldest education program, and then a couple of residencies here and there, and it's exploded in the last 15 years, where we have residencies after school, we have in-school classes, we've got kind of all of it. But it's because theater is being looked at as vital. It's not just a theater education anyway. It's not just being viewed as just an extracurricular activity that's something to check a box. I think a lot of people are emphasizing in education those 21st century skills of creativity and communication and collaboration. And we've been doing that. That's what theater is. It's a social medium. It's a tactile medium. It's where you're forced to collaborate. Even if it's a one-person play, you still are collaborating with the other artists that are a part of it and the audience.
Yeah.
So it's huge. It's so important, which is why it's very weird right now when we're in tech.
Yeah. But let's, Peter, let's roll the slides, because so we know that we do in class work, but tell us about this stuff.
Yeah, so this is Creative Classrooms. This is the Arts Integration Program. It's an incredible program led by Natalie Dreyer, and here she is with a whole classroom full of kids. That is in the Providence Public Elementary Schools. We also have adult acting classes, as you can see, with our lifelong learning, with Linda Sutherland teaching a scene study class. We have a ton of those throughout the year. We have wonderful interns. I started as an intern, so did a bunch of staff members at Trinity Rep. And these are our interns this season who unfortunately had to leave in March, but we love them and miss them. And they were in all the departments. This is just a picture from our YASI Shakes production, which we'll talk about YASI later, but one of our summer camps. Our accessibility programs, that's something new that we added to the education department, is our Sensory Friendly and Sensory Friendly Plus programs. We have them every year. And we have Train, which is for folks with disabilities, behavioral health or physical disabilities. We have all of that, and we serve them by teaching in their classrooms or hospitals. And then finally, right here, right now, and there's plenty more where that came from. There would be 1,000 slides, but right here, right now is our 10-minute playwriting festival, and it's actually going to be launched on Facebook this Friday at 7 p.m. That was Matthew Tibbs in the center there, who's our associate artistic director, and he leads the festival. And it is so amazing and inspiring to see these high school students from all over New England writing and creating art. And like we also have many of our company members and local artists acting in them. And Curt played Dr. Fert Elizer in a play called Watermelon Boy.
Yep, that was 2 years ago. And then
Yeah,
last
that
year,
was-
I think I was Yeti.
You were a Yeti, yes, and that was also an incredible, I mean, honestly, on your acting resume, you know, those are the featured roles. So
I just updated it last week, and I was like, oh,
Good.
Yeti,
Yeah.
here. Right now.
I demand a full professional production remount.
Rodney Witherspoon and Rodney was Sasquatch, and I was Yeti. Yeah,
You know what your job is now.
It's so fantastic. We had a
there is footage of those. Yeah, we definitely recorded all of them.
We're not going to show that tonight, but Jordan, you're right. I misidentified you because you're our director of education and accessibility, and I think part of the thing that I admire about our education programs under your tenure is that you've expanded the way that we've thought about the needs of folks that have to be educated, right? So the education should not be something that is decided vis-a-vis ability.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to push back against the thought that if someone has a disability, a cognitive or behavioral disability, that they can't act. Anyone, if you have a physical, if you have if you're in a wheelchair, anyone can act. Even if you don't have spoken word, you're able to communicate through other means. And so I have so many students who will create plays and craft work with them and for them that will really highlight their talents. And so if they're dancers, then we'll make sure that they can kind of boogie on stage. But it's a really wonderful thing to watch when we have the summer program, which we'll see something from in a second, but called the Young Actors Summer Institute. And there are students, so many students who I've recruited from Bradley Hospital, which is a psychiatric hospital for children in Rhode Island, from behavioral health schools, or just from the community and our wonderful community partners who have joined us and been part of the fabric of that camp. And, they are incredible. And theater is like a leveler, the kids and adults, and young adults who are in that program are so empathetic and kind to each other and so thoughtful. And they are like, for any kid who's shy or nervous in a social situation, it's the most wonderful group of people to work with, both the children and the staff. It's amazing. So.
I think that's a really good point, which is part of what, and you talked about 21st century skills, but one of the things that is a hallmark of our program is the empathic nature of all of the students, how they care for each other, how they emotionally guard each other, how they're very careful about the way that they talk to each other, and it's just astonishingly beautiful. I am gonna in just a second roll this clip, however, which is from the sublime to the ridiculous, but it's also a hallmark of, here's a bunch of politically awake kids. These are high school students, and they wrote the thing that I love about our education program is they write the work, they direct the work, they act in the work, they do the designing, they think about how it gets staged. And so it really is their work, and they're making a commentary in this next clip on how people view gay people. And I'm just gonna set it up like that. Peter, let's roll this clip, It's from the Young Actors Summer Institute in 2019.
Hi, I'm Brad. I'm straight.
Hi, Brad. Hi, I'm Kelly.
Hi, I'm Chad and I'm straight.
Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I'm straight.
Hi, I'm Conrad and I'm straight.
Hi, I'm Becky, I'm straight. Hey, I'm Glenn, I'm straight. I'm Monica, and I'm straight.
I'm Garen and I'm straight. Hi, I'm Gonad and I'm straight.
Hi, I'm Phoebe, and I'm straight.
All right, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming today. No. Chad, you seem upset today. Do you want to start?
Yes, thank you, Brad. I've been having a really tough time lately with gay guys hitting on me.
That sucks. How many guys?
One.
I am so sorry, Chad.
I don't want gay guys hitting on me. I don't want to hear them hitting on each other. Gay people should be seen but not heard. Actually, they shouldn't be seen either. People say I'm homophobic, but I just don't want them pushing their lifestyle on me.
And so ridiculous.
Yeah, it got even, it escalated from there. It was scathing and so irreverent and hysterical, and it was from the comedy class. But we have a long tradition with YASI, which was started in 2007. We often will have theater for social justice or theater for social change classes, but even in the classes like comedy class or playwriting or anything, you know, it's all throughout their work, and they really are the future. And every time I watch something, I'm just like, oh, that's why we do this. You know, they're incredibly inspiring and also hysterical and so smart.
And crazy. There are crazy
Yes.
little weirdos.
Yes.
They absolutely are crazy little weirdos.
Yes.
And the thing that Jordan, one of our first questions came through already, and it said, where is Rue? Is Rue hidden in the bedroom?
Great question. Rue is being like bribed with peanut butter so that she doesn't scream bark during this, but she might later make an appearance. Yeah, my poor husband Nate is trapped with her, hoping that she doesn't scream. So
Right, that's Jordan's dog, not her child.
That's not a person. Yeah, that's
it's not your child named Rue. Because you know, and then we got another question that said, what is it like being the artistic director of a theater that is so much more than just putting on plays? Wow, that's a really thoughtful question. You know, I think if you've been listening to what the three people who are joining me on the call tonight are saying, theater is never just putting on plays. I mean, you know, Michelle is talking about being a project discovery student, and like that had an impact on your life, right, Michelle?
Absolutely.
So it isn't a straight line from being a high school student seeing a play to being the community engagement director at Trinity Rep. But somehow those things are all connected, right?
Yeah, you know, it brought me to a place, you know, I became a performer and a singer, but what it showed me was possibility. It made me feel like I can do this too. There is a realm for me. There is a place for me. And, you know, seeing the kids in the last clip, it's just, you know, that emotion and power and a place to advocate for yourself artistically, that never dies. And it's so wonderful to see.
Danny, did you start out wanting to be an actor? Was that like were you a little kid who was like, yeah, I'm gonna be an actor? And
I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do, but yeah, it was painfully obvious. I either was going to do that or direct movies, and now I'm trying to do the other one too. So, but yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, totally.
Did you have a drama program where you grew up that you were part of?
I didn't really, yeah, long story short, I didn't really understand it until I got to high school.
Right.
And it's the first time I've actually been able to say her name in a public forum. It's a name that means the most to me next to my mom's. Her name is Arlene Hood, and she was the head of drama at Moreau Catholic High School in Hayward, California. And if not for her, I would not be sitting here today.
Yeah.
And not because she like put me in a play, although she did that, but like we were talking about education earlier. And it's why I like to teach at YASI whenever I can. And it's why I like to teach classes. It's because it's like I always tell my students bluntly, I don't care whether you become an actor or not. I'm not really training an actor. What I'm trying to train you to do is own yourself. And that's it. I mean, that's what this work really does. It's like you actually come up against yourself every single day. And when you're young, that's an incredible gift to start that process.
Absolutely. It's about shaping a life that is inflected by humanism, right?
Right.
Where you can actually see other people and care for them and their response to the world. Tony Estrella at the GAM Theater always talks about the theater is the place where if you're a humanist and you don't have other things that you believe in, you go to the theater as your church, right? You go there to sort of hear the things that give you, that sustain you, that feed you, that give you confidence, which is what both you and Michelle are talking about.
Yeah,
right?
I won't get political, but it's like, well, I'll just say this. People often ask me, why are most theater workers that I know pretty liberal and pretty liberal at that? And I was like, because we deal in humanity for a living.
That's right.
Like, it's not, do you know what I mean? It's like, there are truths that this work makes you deal with that you can't turn away from it once you've heard it.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Jordan, I just got another question. Can you tell us more about the internship program?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a couple of different kinds of internships. We have a wonderful, the one that I was a part of is for students who have just graduated from college or folks who have equivalent experience who are looking to go into theater professionally, but are needing that extra step and that bridge into the professional world. So we have 10 different internships, each in a different department. There's one with Michelle in artistic management and community engagement. We have an education intern. We have development, graphic design, marketing. And then in the production side, we've got stage management, costumes, electrics, which is lighting, sound. And then we also have a Brown Trinity Rep intern each year who gets kind of a little bit of everything in there. So we have those opportunities that last the full season. And that is like basically a 9-month-long job interview. And if we don't have a position for them at Trinity, often we're their references. We're the ones who are making calls to other theaters. Theater is a close-knit community. There's so many different folks who have worked elsewhere who, when they work with interns, get to I got my first job after my internship because the general manager at Trinity had seen my work as an intern in another department. So you never know where those connections are going to help you. And often, just like with the Brown Trinity Network, that a lot of them going on into great things in New York and LA and all over, the interns end up collaborating after they leave here, or they'll meet Brown Trinity students or folks in the Providence community and create art with them after here. So it's been wonderful watching yeah, I guess now it would be like 13 generations of interns since I started grow and take over the theater world. So, but the applications are online. We also have some high school opportunities. We work a lot with the Met School in Providence, and we have some random job shadows. We have backstage tours if you want to hear about all the different jobs in theater, because a lot of people just think actor, director, that's it, end of list. And there's so much more to what makes the theater run, from the admin side to the front of house to production. So a lot of folks don't think about that. And so these internships and job shadows really help people to launch careers.
And I'll just cut in and add to that, because also added, regional theaters are non-for-profit organizations, which require way more people than you ever hear about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, and Danny, you know that because you were at OSF, Oregon Shakespeare Festival, where there were like 650 employees. I know, it's crazy.
And then I was on the staff at Dallas Theater Center too. So
yeah.
For anyone that's listening who doesn't know these three folks as well as I do, part of what's so special about the people that work at Trinity Rep, and I am calling out my three friends here specifically, is just how tireless they are, how many hours they work at what they do. Danny's, I'm just gonna call you out on this, bud. Danny's living in our intern house right now, and I know it's beautiful.
Yes, there's a house, there's housing and a stipend. It's amazing.
I was gonna say something, but I was like,
But
it's
Danny
not an unpaid internship. It's like a housed, and stipend internship.
But Danny's been caretaking, and he's helping do so much. And it's not his job, but because he's a love and because he's this incredibly generous spirit, he's helping us out. Michelle did the community sing all by herself and got those little carol books by walking around and getting somebody to donate it, and Jordan teaches dozens of classes a week, and that's not an exaggeration. So part of what I just want people to know is that the folks who work at Trinity Rep are the best, hardest working people that you can imagine. And I am so grateful that I get to work with all of you. It's really, truly a gift. So we're coming up on our time here, and I know we have one more little clip before we take off. There's no more questions. Any final thoughts or comments that y'all want to share before I wrap up?
no, I can't wait to get back to work.
No.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about all this. Like, I know I like all our jobs really, but like all our jobs are so social. Like it's really like they're jobs in the world. Like there is no telecommuting. There can't be. Do you know what I mean? There is no, and it's like, I'm so used to it. Like I find myself, and believe me, I mean, a lot of people already know this. I could watch movies, and I have, on end all day like it's my job, because it has been. And I still get like I'm ready to start interacting with people.
There's nothing like, I mean, this is why we do theater, right? I mean, this is lovely, and I love seeing your beautiful faces.
Yeah.
But the reason I do theater is because I want to be in a room with people, like for real, and feel their presence. And you can feel, it raises the hair on my arms. You can feel an audience's response to a play in a way that you can't feel in a movie theater, or certainly not watching Netflix.
No, and not even, and even just being the people on stage. I mean, the audience is not just affecting the fiction that they're watching. They are the fiction they're watching. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's never going to go away. People keep talking about like, oh, we're afraid for the theater as an art form. It's not going anywhere. Relax.
Nope. In fact, I think coming out of COVID,
yeah.
Coming out of COVID, they're going to be hungry for it. They're going to want it. Michelle or Jordan, anything as we wrap up?
Kind of thinking about what Danny said, thinking about different things in the community, and something I really miss is, having that energy transfer between people. We can see our faces and connect here, but there is something beautiful about saying, come into this room, come into this space, let's share this moment together, and be present together, not within, the confines of, once again, a box, whether it be Zoom or whatever it may be. Having that true connection, once again, it goes back to being able to connect with people. And it's important, and that'll never go away.
It won't. We're going to wrap up with Jordan. You at the end of the Young Actors Summer Institute every year, we do a big group number.
We do a finale, and it's a mashup. And there's two age groups: the fifth through seventh graders and the 8th through 12th graders. You just saw the comedy clip from the 8th through 12th graders, so we thought we would end with our younger students. And this was directed and choreographed by Rachel Warren and Jackie Davis, who we love dearly, who have been teaching for us for so long and also appear constantly on the Trinity Rep stage. Constantly. I'm going to be back again. What were you say, Danny?
No, about the clip. Get ready to cry because in the rehearsal.
Yeah, I have wept multiple times. So.
Hey, so thanks everyone for watching. I'm saying good night. Michelle, Danny, Jordan, 3 of my favorite people. Thank you all so much for being here. And Peter, let's roll that YASI clip.
Thank you, everyone. Good show. That is it for this week. We are back again next week at the same time. Once again, we are back here next Thursday evening for a 7:30 p.m. half hour. Thank you so much. Have a great night and a great week.